Goods here in TNT. Just to give you some information, state-owned National Flour Mills has reduced its prices by around 10% on all its main retail brands of flour after monitoring world grain prices over the past few weeks. Nutrimix, the competitor to National Flour Mills, dropped its prices from 10 to 13% on Country Pride and Nutrimix Premium Grade 2 kilogram and 10 to 12% on its 10 kilogram sized flour products. But the question is, why aren't consumers experiencing a drop in prices for flour-based goods? Well, I'm joined by the president this morning, Mr. Kieran Singh. He's with us via Zoom. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the program.
Good morning to you and good morning to Trinidad and Tobago. It's certainly a pleasure to be here on the station this morning.
Well, Mr. Singh, thank you very much for joining me. Very first question, if you could answer it, because I myself have so many thoughts surrounding it. Consumers have not experienced a drop in retail prices for certain goods as yet, though the price of flour has decreased. Why is that the case?
Well, it's a question. It's a very good question this morning, and of course, we are somewhat beleaguered by, in terms of how we get answers to this question. We have recognized and we appreciate the drop in price from the major flour importers into the country, that the price of flour has reduced. But we haven't seen that price reduction reflected at the grocery shelves. Maybe that will happen in the near future. We wait to see. But until that happens, the average consumer or the average person who utilizes flour, which practically is everyone in the country, cannot benefit from that reduction in price of flour. And we somewhat curious as to why that hasn't happened as yet. Mm-hmm. And of course, we would have expected that because the cost of shipping has been reduced by a significant amount to practically the pre-pandemic levels. We know that during the pandemic, the cost of shipping went up exponentially from around 3,000 to 5,000 to around 15,000. It has now gone back down to around 3,000 to 5,000, and we would expected, as expected, the price of flour did reduce. Maybe it should be reduced by even a further discount, but we wait to see that maybe that will happen in time. Mm-hmm. But we suffered several supply chain issues, and now we are wondering why it is that the consumer on the street is not benefited from this price reduction, and what is causing the delay. We are still somewhat puzzled this morning as to why that isn't happening.
One of the arguments actually being put forward by the owner of a major bakery chain here in Trinidad and Tobago, my apologies, is that National Flour Mills have not actually notified bakeries of a decrease in commercial flour prices. What the bakery owner is arguing is that this is something that will benefit consumers who are purchasing flour from a supermarket, but not necessarily from a commercial aspect where they tend to purchase in large sacks, in large quantities.
The thing is that the end product where the flour is one of the basic ingredients to create this finished item for sale, also has other ingredients that goes into the manufacture of the item. So for instance, you have oil, salt, packaging, and then different starch, that will create the final product. The prices of these items have not been reduced. For instance, oil, cooking oil, the price went up significantly over the last 2 years, and we haven't seen a reduction in that. And oil is used as a basic ingredient for cooking in all facets of across the board in a kitchen environment to create that final product, and that will of course hamper the ability of not only bakeries, but anyone that prepares food for sale, or even in the household context, to see a reduction in the overall price. It will be somewhat challenging until we see a reduction in the other items that go into the final cost exercise in creating the final product. And again, we wonder, why is it that, it goes back to the cost of shipping has been reduced. Why is it that the cost of the final item hasn't been reduced? Flour on the shelf, as you would hear the bakery saying, and even you will hear other business owners speaking to this in the future, this conversation develops further, that yes, flour has been reduced, but other line items have not been reduced this morning.
So essentially the argument being put forward, not only by yourself but by others, is that there are other endemic challenges that businesses have faced and are continuing to face, which are contributing to a higher cost all around. So though we are seeing a decrease in the cost of shipping and freight, there's still an increase in other areas. Businesses simply cannot continue to absorb those prices.
That is true. But also, as responsible business owners, we should share any burden, and we have been. I know that a lot of businesses took a hard hit during the pandemic to stay alive, to stay open. Some of us were not able to survive the pandemic, and they were closed permanently. Some shuttered their doors but have reopened. And now that the pandemic is over, we are seeing some increase in business activity. We're seeing some return to normalcy to a certain extent. And that is welcome news for us, as we are responsible employers, and significantly so after the government put any MSME framework of business in the country. And what we want to see this morning and going forward is that we share that responsibility in terms of sharing the cost across the board so that we can all survive. We all have to live here together. We all have to find ways, innovative ways, find alternatives to goods that have increased in price. And what we need to do is to sit. We should have a roundtable discussion. We will be approaching the Ministry of Trade to engender this process, to sit with the major importers, the major manufacturers and producers and business owners to let's see how we can come up with a framework to look at some ways to cost reduction, to strategize a way to move forward so that the consumer, because food inflation, as we all know, is one of the major drivers of the cost of living in the country. And when that continues to escalate, it puts a serious impact on the households, on businesses, and it creates a certain deterrent to business activity if inflation continues, because food is at the top of the agenda in any person's life. We need food to live. So we have to do that.
So, without repeating myself too much, I know you've mentioned the cost of freight and shipping, but generally speaking, overall, though there has been some, and I stress on that word, some return to normalcy with regard to businesses post-COVID-19 pandemic, is it that the inflationary pressures with regard to food prices, they're still there? Any relief at all with regards to such pressures?
Well, we have heard several pronouncements publicly that we would have seen reduction in prices across the board by the middle of the year, going into the second financial quarter, and we haven't seen that. Trinidad and Tobago is a peculiar country. When prices go up, we don't see them ever going back down. And we did take that announcement or the different pronouncements by the leaders in the different industries with, well, I wouldn't say a pinch of salt, but maybe a pound of salt, because we haven't seen any reduction in prices anyway. And it can be quite frustrating for the average consumer on the street who has to find his same income that hasn't increased, whether you're a business owner or a public servant. The expenses have gone up. Your income has remained the same, which means you have less disposable income to spend on food, which is a necessity, as opposed to luxury items that we will not be spending money on because of the fact that we have to secure this money. I know that school is closed, but it's going to reopen after the holidays. People have to now dissect that budget that they have to spend on school supplies for their kids who will now be entering a new era of school, whether primary school, secondary school, university, and that could be quite expensive. The cost of books has increased, the cost of stationery has increased. And I want to also throw into the conversation this morning that we're talking about food inflation, but we also have other items that have increased that we import that have not decreased in price. For instance, hardware items. We import practically all of the items we need for construction. And these, of course, come in sea freight primarily. And if the cost of sea freight, again, it will sound that we're repeating ourselves this morning, but the cost of sea freight has been reduced so significantly. Why aren't we seeing that reflected in the hardwares as a further example to the conversation we're having this morning? We really wonder, some business people, are they really working with the community in which they operate? We should have a more synergistic way we deal with how we treat with our customers.
Mm-hmm. If that be the case, and there's an argument that possibly there are some businesses that are really taking advantage of the situation and utilizing the COVID-19 pandemic still as I suppose, an excuse or reasons for arguments as to the cost of items, is there a need for greater consumer protection here in Trinidad and Tobago?
I certainly think the Ministry of Consumer Affairs and the agencies that are aligned to that to be more aggressive, to get more involved in the national conversation on how we deal with inflationary pressures that are affecting us. The Bureau of Standards. We have products that come into this country and there's nothing in English in the ingredients. We don't know what we're purchasing from the grocery shelves. Is this right for persons who have health challenges in terms of diabetes, lifestyle issues? If they purchase this product, is it going to benefit them? Is it going to kill you over time by eating it and consuming it? We need to be more vociferous, and maybe we need to re-enter these tripartite type discussions that we had once upon a time to ensure that the public safety of not only consumers but all persons across the board through the entire society of Trinidad and Tobago can survive, can see benefits from a government private sector type partnership and arrangement to ensure that we all survive.
Now, beyond this, if we were to examine the cost of other areas, has the cost of even rent with regards to properties, have we seen some sort of relief in the area of property management and real estate? I know security costs have gone up exceptionally high, but in other areas as well, are we seeing any sorts of reprieve?
I know that commercial rentals have decreased. There has been a lot of leeway with commercial rentals in downtown areas of the country. The malls that exist in the suburbs of the country, they have managed to maintain their rents. They have managed to exercise payment plans while in conjunction with rent relief. Residential rental has remained relatively high, and of course that's because of the high demand for residences still continue, and the supply of residences is still not it still doesn't match the demand, and that will continue to keep residential rentals high, and that will speak to, again, the disposable income of the consumer remains flat, remains stagnant, and we're not able to increase that because the economy is affected by the global factors of the lower oil prices, lower energy prices, and then we'll get into discussion of economic diversification, which continues to plague us. And until we don't do that, we're going to remain right where we are, not able to increase the national income, which in turn will increase the personal income of the personal industry.
What about the access to foreign exchange?
Well, that's a That's a million-dollar question. We always have that discussion that we see the conglomerates can import literally thousands of cars, and they pay for that in US dollars. But the average small businessman to enter the bank to get 100 US is extremely difficult. And we continue to wonder that there's preferential treatment from the banking sector for their preferred customers and those that need the money to we import. We still have to buy clothes. We don't manufacture clothes in this country in any significant way. We footwear, accessories, as basic food, basic items that we need to live, we import it. So we still need that access to foreign exchange, and it's an ongoing discussion that we have with the banks, with the ministry, as to how we can access greater foreign access to foreign exchange. And it happens. You hear that, yes, we have 6 months, 9 months import cover, and that is good for us on a national level. But on the personal level, on the small business level, how does that benefit those who have their workers to pay, have to import goods, have to restock? And in July, we passed the half-year mark, so we're now supposed to be in a position to restock for the upcoming busy Diwali and Christmas shopping seasons. And unless we can get that access to that foreign exchange in a very short, quick time, it is going to impact upon us. And of course, that also brings it to the VAT refunds, which the Honorable Minister had said that we would get that in a quick time. Some business owners are still complaining that they haven't received their VAT refunds, especially on the smaller end of the scale, in as efficient a manner as they should, to be able to restock their shelves for the upcoming Christmas season.
Mr. Singh, before I release you from the torture of this conversation this morning, because I know it's very difficult to really, to have to sometimes hear this is an ongoing issue. And that's precisely where my last question lies. At what point do you, as well as other business owners, members of your business chamber, and perhaps others, expect some level of fruit to bear from these ongoing conversations? At what point are you seeing any level of progress being made from these ongoing conversations, or is it just going to continue to be ongoing?
As business people, we have to be optimistic, cautiously so, of course, but we have to adapt to change. We have to be able to predict future roles that we will play in the business environment, in the social environment. And as responsible persons who engage in business activity, it can be difficult, it can be challenging when we are faced with increasing cost of living, increasing prices, and we want to work with the society, we want to work with the government. We want to ensure that we have a smooth sailing of activity. We want to see increasing activity, and we have to be positive for that to happen. If we continue a conversation with a negative approach, we're not going to succeed. And that is the only way we will survive in this environment. And survive is challenging. It's challenging, but we can survive. Trinidad and Tobago societies can be quite harmonious if we work together, and we will succeed.
Well, I agree with you in that sense that we can be harmonious if we work together. Whether or not we will succeed, I suppose you're a bit more optimistic than I am, given the daily reports that you read, but I suppose you may also know a bit more than most of us. But Mr. Singh, thank you very much for joining me on the program this morning. I appreciate your time, and for just, I suppose we can look at this as an update of ongoing affairs with regards to businesses. But nevertheless, I appreciate your time and for sharing this information with us this morning.
Thank you for being given the opportunity to speak this morning to Trinidad and Tobago, and everyone be safe out there. The monkeypox apparently is here, so we have to be even more vigilant in how we deal with hygienic issues. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Singh. Do have a good day. President of the Greater San Fernando Business Chamber, Mr. Kiran Singh, joining me on EM Prime this morning. An all-round discussion. The focus began with regard to flour-based products, but we are now hearing from other business owners. One bakery owner suggesting that commercial flour prices have not seen a decrease. It is only more so retail prices that consumers who are shopping at a supermarket will experience, which is a very, very important factor that we should all consider. Beyond this, other raw materials, the prices have not gone down. The cost of fuel, that has not gone down. Partial adjustment. I suppose a partial adjustment is not temporary. It seems now more or less to be permanent. And even the cost of security, all of that are factors to consider. But is there a need for greater consumer protection here in Trinidad and Tobago? Well, according to Mr. Singh, the Consumer Affairs authorities, they need to perhaps be a bit more strict with their practices. Ladies and gentlemen, share your thoughts with me via social media. But for now, we're going to take a break. And when we return, we'll get into some more conversations this morning. Stay tuned to the program.
The best birthday gifts are at dbesttoys.com. Shop for the best brands you love at the best prices. Like VTech, Leapfrog, Fisher-Price, Play-Doh, Hot Wheels, Barbie, Cocomelon, LOL, Baby Alive, Crayola. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 32DBEST to order. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is it no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, heart disease claims a life every 34 seconds. Our relative sitting down across the table is experiencing a heart attack as we speak.
It is important to seek medical attention urgently because prompt treatment of a heart attack could prevent extensive damage and death. Therefore, one should try to get to a hospital as soon as possible, preferably by ambulance.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
Welcome back to AM Prime, and thank you for staying with us. We're getting into a lighter conversation this morning. I suppose it depends on who you are watching this program, because we're speaking about West Indies cricket. Particularly, how do we save West Indies cricket? Is the genuine West Indian cricketer going extinct, where that natural talent actually exists, and you see that pride and joy when wearing the maroon colours when you're out there on the field? Well, this morning I'm joined by former board member of Cricket West Indies and the Trinidad and Tobago Cricket Board, Dr. Alan Sam. He's with us. Well, actually, technology is a beautiful thing. He's with us via Zoom and telephone. Hello, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here. I'm sorry about the Zoom not coming in properly with the audio, so I am on both devices at the same time.
That's fine. As I said, technology is a beautiful thing, an amazing thing. But, you know, before I get into the meat of the matter, you know, your take on the first innings of yesterday's test match against India, 149 all out. I mean, heartbreaking, is that a word that is used too much now to describe West Indian fans' sentiments?
Well, only one day has gone, so there is a lot to go still. Let's be optimistic, but we do have to engage in more long-term planning, and that's what I'll talk about a little bit.
Well, part of the long-term planning is that Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, who we understand to be a passionate fan of West Indies cricket, a very passionate fan actually, he has been appointed chairman of the CARICOM Prime Ministerial Subcommittee on Cricket. Your thoughts on this subcommittee?
I have no problem with that. I welcome any Prime Minister who has been put to chair such a meeting. I'm working in the assumption that everybody would listen to different voices. Unfortunately, I think in the past what people have been doing is listening to only a few voices. Now, I want to emphasize every single voice is important, whether it's the spectator who knows nothing about cricket organization per se, to the person who is sitting at the West Indies board level. Every single voice is a valid and relevant voice. It is to put all of it together, and I'm trusting that the Honorable Prime Minister will do that.
Mm-hmm. Now, there has been an argument previously about trying to prevent any external intervention with regard to West Indies cricket. In other words, let's not get too involved. We do not want to politicize the institution too much. Do you think that this subcommittee goes against what was being refrained from previously?
I think I missed a little there, and I've heard the word politicized. I don't see any politics in this. I myself had said that we should invite CARICOM, and CARICOM by definition almost, well, the leaders of these political entities. But we're all seeking to achieve a common good. And any Prime Minister who is put to chair, as I say, needs to listen to the voices of the various stakeholders, but it can't be everybody. We have listened to everybody. By that I mean I believe all the consultations that have gone before, the Patterson, the Webby, the Barito, has involved stakeholders at different levels. What is missing, however, in my view, is what do the territorial boards have to say. There are 6 territorial boards, and I've read all the reports, and I don't believe enough attention has been paid to what the territorial boards have to say. I've made the point before, and I'll make it again. The people who play the cricket are the territorial boards, and then they send to the West Indies board their best players, or the West Indies board will pick the best players, their selectors, and it is what they are seeing before them. but they are not the producers of cricketers. It is the territorial boards. So we need to follow what is the structure and operations of territorial boards. How do they survive, and how can we assist them?
Is there a need for greater collaboration between Cricket West Indies as well as various CARICOM nations in regard to investments of cricket at grassroots levels?
I think the key word is investment, and that's really the thrust of what I've been saying. Let me explain quickly. The Cricket West Indies is not fly-by-night. People give the impression if you fire the board, everything will improve. If people take time to read the last document of the West Indies Cricket Board, and that's the 21-22 document about what Cricket West Indies has done and plans to do in going forward, you will see that all our policies and programs are in keeping with international policies and programs. By that I mean, if you look at Cricket Australia, Cricket India, Cricket England, all of us have similar programs and policies. So it is not that we are different in that regard. The governance structure, for example, speaks to maybe 5 fundamentals: the cricket operations, finance and administration, game development, legal and business, and stakeholder outreach. And all 5, 6, 7, 8, 15 territories have the same platforms on which they build their programs. So we are no different. And if you look at the details of what we have done already, and I say we meaning West Indies Cricket Board, they have done all of those to some varying degrees of success. The problem lies in the lack of resources. Let me explain what I mean by resources. People think that resources means only money, far from money. It is money, of course, and that's the primary driver. But it is also manpower and management. Now, we have 14 different sovereign states playing cricket in the Caribbean. It means you need 14 passports. For one passport, you need 14 visas, in theory. You have different territories with different taxes, different costs of airfares, different currencies, different laws, different systems. And here we are, a cricket-playing nation. If you were in Australia, you move seamlessly from state to state. If you're in England, you move easily from place to place. In India, from place to place. Bangladesh, every single else. But in the Caribbean, it is torture to move from one place to another to even play cricket. And in some cases, even to be a tourist. So here we have 14 territories with 14 sets of laws and regulations and so on. So when cricket has to be organized at a territorial level, there's all kinds of torture in moving from one to the other, quite apart from the cost of the affairs. So where am I going with this? I am saying, if the CARICOM leaders sit and say, listen, we know what are the 5 or 6 platforms you wish to develop. We have seen your plan. We have seen what you want to do. We have seen what you're doing already. But let me invest in it. And this is nothing new I'm saying, by the way. This has been said 15, 10, 20 years ago, but nobody is doing it. Now that we have lost and we are absolutely at the bottom of the barrel, I think the CARICOM leaders ought to stand up and listen to what they have been saying a long time ago. So what will we do? Cricket West Indies will sit with CARICOM and they will say, let us jointly work out a team to go to each one of the 6 territories and ask them what their issues are in respect of those 5 things we talked about, namely cricket operations, finance and administration, game development, legal and business, and stakeholder outreach. So there are 5 commonalities, if you wish. Go to each territory, find out what their issues are in each territory, find out what is the cost to eliminate those issues or to address those issues, and come up with a master plan for investment. Then CARICOM turns around and say, okay, so this is a $20 million plan that you have for 2024 and 2025 and 2026. So you do 3 to 5 years. This is what we will do. We will start to fund it and we will start to share our manpower. Listen carefully, manpower. Let me give you an example. If Tariq, for example, in Trinidad, or Booker's, or Grace in Jamaica, say, listen, I have expertise in my management in terms of human resource management, I have financial management, all the different kinds of management. I will lend you that resource. But this is the common curriculum we are following throughout the Caribbean. And we will address the issues of club management, for example, club finance raising. Notice where I've gone to clubs, but clubs in each territory, because that's where your strength is. And you build on those clubs, and you build the capacity of the clubs, then by extension, the territorial board capacity is improved. The quality of personnel, therefore, at the board level will improve. And then you have an investment plan at the Caribbean level, driven by Caribbean governments, with CWI, addressing the issues. And I am saying, if that approach is used, now people will say, where will CARICOM get the money? The normal thing you do is you have a Caribbean lottery. So that is one. Two, you can say, I as a CARICOM country will put 1 million, 2 million, whatever you can afford. And three, you have to get private sector investment, but they must see an investment plan. So with this investment plan, you can then be able to go forward over the next 5 years. Let me tell you something. We have that same team that only scored 150. That team could score 500, you know. But I'll tell you what is missing in this whole thing currently has. There is not enough resources to go on tours. There is not enough resources to have people together to train and train hard and to train consistently.
Let me ask you,
without excuses.
In your opinion, is there any one territorial board, any one domestic board that Cricket West Indies can actually take examples from? Any one domestic board that is actually showing this is how we should run things?
I know best about the running of the Trinidad and Tobago Cricket Board. I'm familiar with the strategic plans over the past 20 years. I'm familiar with the many of them. I know the level of detail in which Trinidad and Tobago Cricket Board goes into its organizational structure, strategic planning, its operational planning. I'm familiar with it. This year, for the first time, the Trinidad Cricket Board was able to fund, this is only at one level, virtually every single competition that we have had. That did not happen by accident. It happened by careful planning. It started many years ago. And people would have been able to see strategically where you wish to go. So organizationally at that level, it is there. The problem doesn't lie in there. Every single club that plays cricket in Trinidad, with very few exceptions, plays cricket on public grounds. Public grounds, I want to emphasize that. It means, therefore, who's in charge of those public grounds? It is local government. Where does local government get its funds to upgrade those grounds from central government? If you don't get the money, or you don't get the machinery, you don't get the brush cutter, you don't get the roller, you don't get anything at all, to go and fix those grounds, then the quality of play at the domestic level is sacrificed. I want to emphasize that. Now, I admit last year was awful in terms of the weather, and that's a reality we have to face. Climate change is going to affect our ability to play cricket, the normal, traditional, domestic cricket season, and that's throughout the Caribbean. And Trinidad and Tobago needs to focus more on its ground. It needs to focus on the quality of its pitches. We have dead pitches throughout the Caribbean, and some people will say, when did it start? I am putting to you, it started in 2007 with the World Cup. They make all the pitch look the same. And why? Because they wanted to create an even playing surface for all the territories that took part. I am saying we have to readdress that. We have to go back now and make pitches relevant, bouncy, hard, fast. It helps both the slow bowlers, the fast bowlers, and of course it helps the batsmen. I am saying it is as fundamental as that. And what this investment plan will do is you look at your 5 platforms for development in each one of the 6 territories and say, okay, next year we're looking at pitches, we're looking at curators, we're looking at training. There's another aspect that is becoming very important, that's the mental performance. The sociology has changed, and a lot of people are not acknowledging that. They talk about Richards and Lloyd and Kanhai and so on. That's fine. But they played under different social conditions throughout the Caribbean, different economic conditions. Everything was different. So I am saying a lot has changed, and yes, one territory is doing it.
So
Barbados is doing it to some degree, as well as Jamaica. I'm not too sure about the Windward, Leeward, and Diane.
Well, we've seen the commercialization of the sport throughout the world, primarily with T20 cricket.
I missed that. Can you ask it again?
I'm saying we've seen the commercialization of the sport throughout the globe, primarily through T20 cricket. Has that in itself probably destroyed some passion in playing for your national team, especially from the West Indian standpoint, because you've pointed out to a lack of money with regards to West Indies cricket?
Yeah, money is always an issue, and part of that funding that I'm proposing from CARICOM must be to help players to not be enticed by all these T20 leagues all over the world. I'm not saying that players should not maximize their income. They have a shelf life of up to 10 years, and they must maximize it and make as much money as they can. So money, of course, is the driver. Solve the Caribbean and solve the world. People go to where there is money, and people have left Test cricket to play T20 cricket in other jurisdictions. So we have to fund our people. They, after all, are the ones we go to see. We don't want to see the quality of the ground or pitch or anything. We want to see 6 and 4 and wickets. And I'm saying that's the reality we must face. But what drives that reality is fun. So if, for example, a fella plays in the CPL for 6 weeks, in the Indian Premier League for 6 weeks, and you can earn $750,000 US. I don't know how much tax you pay on it. Then imagine what that is to him over a period of 3 or 4 years. He can buy up things like that.
Well, I'm going to have to pause on the conversation there. I know there's quite a bit more that we can get into, but let's pause on it for now. I want to thank you for joining me, and we'll get more into further details when we learn about CARICOM subcommittees as well as the plans going forward. But I'll tell you what, I wish you a good day as West Indies try to defend against India.
Yeah, but if we don't go on more tours, the under-19, the under-23, for the women and everybody, we have to go on tours and say somebody else, what can I do by next year? I'm saying start to tour against good quality cricket, and you will see the transformation. The mental transformation of those will be amazing.
Certainly. Thank you very much, Dr. Sami, for joining me this morning. Have a good day.
You're welcome.
Former West Indies Cricket Board and Trinidad and Tobago Cricket Board member Dr. Alan Sami joining me this morning. Now, as a West Indian fan who's absolutely passionate, and everywhere the men in maroon go, I try my absolute best to watch the game. I must admit, actually, watching the first innings against India yesterday was it was very disheartening, and I suppose that's putting it lightly. 149 all out against what can only say, I mean, when has India's team not been phenomenal? You know, but beyond that, did it come as a surprise? Not entirely. I think also what I've seen, and this is my opinion, is that when you play for West Indies, or any national team for that matter of fact, when you go there, you're representing the pride of your nation. And in the instance of the West Indies, the pride of the Caribbean. So the psychological aspect also needs to be examined. Are West Indian cricketers actually playing with that level of pride when they go there? Do they feel proud to be a part of a West Indies cricket team? All of that we have to question, because I myself I'm starting to wonder, even with regards to the decision making. I think Darren Sami was an excellent captain. Really enjoyed how he took the West Indies team going forward, especially in the World Cups, the T20 World Cups. The decision, though, to make him the coach of the West Indies, I'm so sorry. I can't support that, because at this time, Darren Sami does not have the adequate experience to lead from the coaching aspect any international team. He'll always have my respect, and I'll always love him as an actual cricket player and captain of the West Indies team. But at this time, you even wonder the decision making from the West Indies Cricket Board, precisely what is going through their minds. But let me pause on my rant for now. I'll probably have to continue it tomorrow when I see what takes place today as West Indies go out to try and defend something, I suppose. And you have 149 runs to try and chase down, and then put on more. for the second innings of the test match. Well, their first innings, their first batting innings. See how West Indies chase that. Anyway, let's get over now to regional updates. And I'm going to start, with the island of St. Lucia this morning, because the St. Lucia Tourism Authority is actually buoyant about the upcoming 6 months. The organization is pointing to the increase in airline seats servicing St. Lucia from the region as reasons for their optimism. So this report coming from St. Lucia.
Tourism officials are hoping that visitors will be flocking to St. Lucia and to the region to enjoy the sunshine and beaches come this summer. Although the main regional air carrier, Liat, has very restricted service, the St. Lucia Tourism Authority, SLTA, is bracing for an uptick of arrivals to the island this summer as the Caribbean travel market experiences an airlift rebound. According to the SLTA's press release, this is due to the frequency of service via Inter-Caribbean from Barbados, St. Vincent, and Dominica, and the introduction of a 4 times weekly service from Barbados via Caribbean Airlines starting July 24th. Moreover, the authority anticipates the month of December to also witness a boost in arrivals with some 15,576 additional seats made available from the region. The SLTA is optimistic that this significant increase in capacity will offer ample opportunities for travelers to explore and experience St. Lucia. Tourism, which is the mainstay of St. Lucia's economy, is currently recovering from the fallout from the pandemic. The authority notes that the Caribbean travel market offers numerous opportunities for growth and development. The SLTA's press release states that Tourism Minister Dr. Ernest Hilaire is grateful to airline partners for their unwavering trust in the destination's brand promise. He also welcomed the travel industry's rebounds from the past year's challenges and hoped that the increased flights from the Caribbean market will contribute to the island's economic revitalization. Gina Filippi, HDS News Force.
Well, that's one nation that's actually going to be benefiting from Virgin Atlantic's decision to actually fly within the Caribbean, operating a regional airline. So St. Lucia is expressing confidence over the next few months as they see an increase in the number of airline seats. Does that equate to a number of passengers? Well, the next conversation I have after News on the Hour says there are passengers but not enough seats, and that is with respect to the domestic air bridge. We'll get into that conversation after WSN's News on the Hour.
Here is the WESN News on the Hour. I am Sira Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Bankers Association to collaborate with Crime Stoppers. 3 people were shot in San Juan. Regionally, Vibes Cartel Privy Council appeal date set for 2024. And internationally, New York City Mayor opens 2 emergency centers for West Indians seeking asylum. Now for the details. The Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago is set to finalize a partnership with Crime Stoppers. This according to reports due to the increased risk of robberies when clients visit and leave branches and ATMs. BATT assured that the increase in criminal activity is of as such concern to the organization as it is for valued clients. In a statement, the association said additional measures are being brought on stream to deal with the increase in robberies. BATT said in an effort to combat the uptick in these criminal activities, they have strengthened its coordination effort among all banks, broadened the interaction with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and is finalizing a partnership with Crime Stoppers Trinidad and Tobago Limited. A 3-year-old girl died on Tuesday afternoon, moments after she complained of feeling unwell. The child, Ariana Shepherd, had been staying with relatives in St. Helena Village, Matlot, when on Tuesday morning she began complaining of feeling unwell. She was taken to the Toko Health Facility but died shortly thereafter. Investigators said there were no marks of violence on the child's body. A post-mortem has been ordered to confirm the cause of death. A 35-year-old woman is in critical condition after she and 3 other people survived a shooting. According to reports, the incident took place in San Juan on Tuesday morning. Reportedly, Jalissa Payne survived her injuries while being treated in the hospital. Payne was one of 4 people wounded in a shooting attack in the Kwesi on Tuesday morning. Regionally, incarcerated dancehall artist Vybz Kartel, Sean Storm and 2 other men have provisional dates set at the United Kingdom-based Privy Council, Jamaica's final appellate court, in their bid to overturn their murder convictions. According to Beth Samuels, the attorney for Sean Storm Campbell, the UK court has set a tentative date of April 16th through 18th in 2024 to hear the main arguments in the quartet's appeal. Internationally, New York City Mayor Eric Adams announced the placement of 2 new humanitarian emergency response and relief centers as the number of asylum seekers currently in the city's care surpasses 52,000. The Crown Plaza, JFK Airport, New York in Queens, will today transition from an emergency respite center to a humanitarian relief center to serve more than 330 families with children seeking asylum. In the coming weeks, another emergency respite site already open, located at 47 Hall Street in Brooklyn, will add an area that will serve as a humanitarian relief center to support approximately 1,400 adults, in addition to the hundreds served at the respite site that will remain open, depending on operational needs. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I am Sarah Ali. Thanks for watching.
Welcome back to the program, and thank you for staying with us here on Aeon Prime this morning. My next conversation, as hinted at, surrounds the domestic air bridge. Well, last week, the chairman of the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited, TTAL, Alicia Edwards, actually made a passionate plea for Tobago to be treated, and I quote, not as a stepchild, not as an outside woman, but as an equal partner in the movement of Tobago people. This is with regards to the air bridge between both islands. Well, Ms. Edwards joins me now via Zoom. Good morning, Ms. Edwards, and thank you very much.
Good morning, Katan, and thank you so much for having me on the program this morning.
Certainly is my pleasure. With regards to Tobago must be seen as an equal partner on the air bridge. Could you kindly elaborate a bit further as precisely what you mean by an equal partner?
So I currently wear the hat as the executive chairman of the tourism agency, and we are responsible for promoting the destination. One of the limiting factors that we face is actually getting people to the destination by plane and by boat. From an international place, everybody will be coming by plane. And so even though we are responsible for promoting the destination, the issues around transportation are issues that are controlled by the central government, so Caribbean Airline and the Port Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. So when those services are not efficient, it is outside the control of the TTAL and outside the control of the THA to do what is necessary to bring people to the destination. And so there is a constant cry, almost on a weekly basis, of lost bookings, lost opportunities, cancelled bookings, and that translates to a lot of loss of earnings for persons in operating in the tourism sector in Tobago. So last week, in my capacity as spokesperson for the industry, I took the opportunity to remind the national population that the transportation connection between Trinidad and Tobago is a perpetual issue. And as we speak, it is still an issue that needs to be resolved in a more permanent and positive manner.
But is it really an issue for the THA to deal with? Because Caribbean Airlines is directly under the control of central government, more so the Minister of Finance.
Yes.
So is it really an issue for the THA to actually deal with? I mean, what power does the THA have in dealing with this issue?
They really have no power in terms of changing the outcome. What they can do is to bring awareness to the situation, to ask, to petition, to have meetings, but the ultimate change has to be made with decision makers in Trinidad. And so every opportunity there is, in our capacity as tourism ambassadors and tourism professionals, we take that opportunity to remind people that there is a limiting factor outside of our control, and it needs to be addressed for tourism in the first instance, and then for domestic tourism as well, because the losses are not only on the international connection side. We have a very buoyant domestic tourism product. A lot of Trinidadians come to Tobago for weekends or just for no good reason. And they themselves do have the same issues of connectivity, cancelled bookings, standby uncertainty, and all of that. And so all of that translates to a loss of income for the stakeholders that I represent.
So I understand that the demand, the passenger demand seems to be there. Even the airport capacity seems to be there. But in your opinion, is the airline resources, are they available?
The thing about it is that I understand from a business place what the constraints around Caribbean Airline has been. Caribbean Airline in all its incarnations, because remember it was Arawak many years ago, it was Titas, it was Biwi, then we had a private person in the Air Caribbean coming on, and now CAN. In all its incarnations, it has been difficult to make a profit on this domestic route because of the kinds of planes, the economic cost of the route, and all of those things around the subsidy. And so from a business case, I can understand that CAN may, for its own balance sheet, have to put flights on routes that may actually turn a profit because it has its own mandate of becoming less dependent on subventions from central government. But the issue of the air bridge for Tobago, it really cannot be an economic issue because Tobago has no other way of getting off Tobago. If the boat does not come or if the planes don't fly, there is no road for us to get out of Tobago. And so there must be a special consideration for the movement. And because we are tourism dependent, there is a need for more emphasis and more resources being placed on the domestic route. Because even though there is not a business case, there is a fiduciary responsibility of central government to operate in a way that makes Tobagonians equal to Trinidadians in terms of their ability to move freely.
Mm-hmm. But you've also been quoted as saying last week that no government interventions in the past have proven fruitful. So therefore, do you really think that a government intervention now will actually help the situation?
The thing about it is that I don't know if we are still asking the right question. For many decades, we have asked ourselves, how do we make the boat and the plane more efficient? And maybe the question now becomes, is it that the boat and the plane are the best way to connect Tobago and Trinidad? And if it is not, what is the next option? And it may be a bridge, it may be something else. I don't know what it is. But the point is that we have tried so many incarnations and versions. There is a lot of variability in the demand between Trinidad and Tobago. There are lots of issues in terms of CAL's booking and connection systems. For example, it's very difficult when you are trying to book internationally to actually book a connector from CAL through Sabre. tour operators tell us that they cannot find the Trinidad to Tobago connection when they are making bookings for international clients. And then when you do, sometimes it reads full, even though the planes are not full. And then the whole question of how standbys are processed, the confidence that you have when you go on a standby ticket that you'll be able to travel, all of that makes it very difficult for tourists to choose Tobago first when faced with those stumbling blocks at the booking point.
So then, part of the bigger issue then, and part of the discussion, is the fact that Caribbean Airlines has a monopoly with respect to the domestic airbridge. Do you think that if a private airline were to actually operate the airbridge and actually pass the true cost of the ticket onto the consumer, that in itself might help the situation? Do you think that consumers are willing to pay the true cost of a ticket, which in return might also see Caribbean Airlines saying, okay, listen, this makes a lot more sense for us, so we can put on more flights?
You see, the thing about it, it's a double-edged sword, because the point is, how is it that we want some of the citizens in a Twin Island Republic to pay the full economic cost for movement that should be free to them? Because the cost of the air tickets have gone up by $100 in the last year or so. In addition, depending on when you buy a ticket and if you want to make a change, there is a $50 tab either way. So depending on how you move, you can actually pay $500 TT to move between Trinidad and Tobago. Is it fair for Tobagonians to pay the full economic cost of movement? How would people from Caroni or San Fernando feel if they have to pay the full economic cost of getting into Port of Spain? Because a lot of our movement is compulsory movement. There are no universities on Tobago for some subject areas. There are no advanced medical procedures in Tobago for some illnesses. There are a whole lot of administrative things that you have to come to Trinidad for. Bulk clearing of goods for businesses only happens in Port of Spain, not in Scarborough. So all of those things make the movement of people essential on the trip to Trinidad. So if an airline comes in, but the thing is, we had an airline who tried to come in before. I don't know how many people remember Air Caribbean. Air Caribbean came in, they were a private entity, and I was actually on the airport the day that they went into receivership. And they would have gone into receivership for a number of reasons, but part of it was, I think there was some difficulty with collecting the subsidy on time and all of that. So there are so many things that have happened in this arrangement for the longest while, for 50, 60, 70, 100 years. I don't think that bringing another airline on the route is the fix. A lot more thought has to go into what has gone before, how well it has worked, and what we really do now to create a durable and permanent solution for the issue of freedom of movement.
Caribbean Airlines has stated that it costs approximately $18,000 per flight hour to operate the airline, particularly on the airbridge. So if another airline is possibly, a private airline is not possibly the solution, is there also a need to examine the point of probably having a specific cost, as we see now for domestic passengers, and the true cost of the ticket for international or external passengers?
I think all of that is a possibility, but it has to be negotiated and discussed and agreed on, and then actioned by the persons with the responsibility to do so. The difficulty for us is that even though the cost of the ticket has crept up by a little bit, the service is not any more reliable than. For example, I'm supposed to be in Trinidad next week, and I have opted to take the boat because I made a couple forays to get a flight, and it was just impossible. And I have to move, so I've opted to take the boat, and that is the issue for a lot of Tobagonians. But from the tourism place, and I want to come back because that's the body I represent, international visitors don't know all of those nuances, and they are not going to take the chance of being stranded in transit. And and that for us is a criminal issue. Mm-hmm. I have been doing some discussions and taking surveys with stakeholders recently as part of the GSC setup. And almost on a daily basis, there are lost bookings, there are cancellations, and all of that coming out from the unreliability of the connection. And so tourism persons are really hoping for some sort of movement towards a solution that allows them to make money from the business that they have invested their life savings in.
So what solutions are being, examined by the Tobago Tourism Agency? What suggestions do you all have? If it is that more involvement, in your opinion, is needed?
One of the things that we have been talking with Caribbean Airline about is really some of the refining of their business operations in terms of how their system captures and treats with standby passengers, and how their system allows persons who will use a ticket. So, for example, if I want to travel tomorrow, I may not be able to travel tomorrow, but I will buy a ticket for the next available date. But I will go to the airport tomorrow and travel. The current system does not allow that ticket to fall off and show that space as available on the system for somebody else to book it. So if CAL can refine that and allow themselves to be booked internationally, that will start to solve the issues for us. On the tourism side as well, there is also the question of the interline agreement. And what the interline agreement is, it's an agreement between airlines to honor each other's tickets and also to move baggage seamlessly. There are some hiccups there for us as well, and that is something that can be fixed in the short term to help tourism investors on the island make money from the business. The third thing, and this involves the airport authority and CAL, is the opportunity to have not every day of the week, but some days of the week based on how some international flights arrive from Port of Spain, to have an opportunity for the airport to be open a bit later, and for CAL's last flight out of Port of Spain to not be 8:40 p.m. but later in the evening. So those discussions have been had. There is also the need for what we call a Tobago desk, so that there is, if you have an in-transit passenger who might be running late in immigration and customs and trying to make the flight to Tobago, there is the ability to funnel that person to ensure that they don't lose that connection. So those are some of the short-term things that we have been talking with CAL about. We don't know to the extent to which they are able to meet those things, but it's not for lack of trying. I think that from an organizational place, our goals as TTAL and their goals as CAL don't always intersect, and they have their own corporate mandate and we have ours. But separate and apart from that, I think that there is a national responsibility to make the movement of people in Trinidad and Tobago a lot less difficult for business, for pleasure, and for tourism.
Do you think, in your opinion, do you think CAL needs to be more autonomous in the sense that management needs to make more decisions with regards to flight rather than having to wait for cabinet's intervention? You know, we saw that the Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Brian Manning, he indicating that cabinet was actually deliberating putting on more flights for the Easter period for Caribbean Airlines. And this is mostly because of the subsidy that is involved. But do you think that Caribbean Airlines needs to be more involved in terms of the actual management of the domestic air bridge?
Well, you see, state enterprises are a particular kind of animal. And those animals have different rules from private sector entities. It will be easy for us to sit here and say, maybe the management and the board of CAL can do more. But when corporations sole funds you, there are other considerations that come into place. So I would not get into that. I think that what is necessary at every level, at the level of cabinet, at the level of the board and the management of CAL, is that there needs to be a willingness to come up with solutions that are durable for Tobago people, not just for Easter, for long weekends or for anything like that, but a solution that recognizes the importance of tourism to the island and the island's economic development. And it provides ample opportunity for Tobagonians and other persons who have invested in tourism to make money from this business. Because a lot of income is lost because of the airbridge situation.
You said that your organization has been in communication with Caribbean Airlines. What is this synergy like between your organization and Caribbean Airlines?
We have been working at the level of the senior management to really bring awareness to some of the issues that we face. We have also had discussions with our overseas reps and some of our tour operators and CAL so that they can understand intimately the problems from an outside looking position. But the thing again is that even though people may be aware, the ability to mandate decisions and to implement them don't always rest with the people that we speak with. Ultimately, everything will end up at the Ministry of Finance and Cabinet, and that is where I think the issues of the air bridge compete with other interests and other funding and other considerations at the national level.
Ms. Edwards, I want to thank you very much for joining me this morning on AM Prime. You've actually given me a lot to think about and a lot more to examine, and I do appreciate your time and efforts. I suppose we will hear further to the conversations with regards to your pleas and the conversations between your agency and Caribbean Airlines. But for now, thank you for sharing this information with us, of which we all have to digest and analyze and hopefully have future discussions. But for now, take care.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. That was the chairman of the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited, Ms. Alicia Edwards, joining me this morning on AM Prime, discussing the issue with regard to the domestic air bridge. So there is communication between the agency and Caribbean Airlines, but there's a lot that needs to be done just beyond putting on more flights, according to Ms. Edwards. The synergy between international agencies and Caribbean Airlines with regard to the domestic air bridge, well, that certainly needs to be worked on, as well as a Tobago desk and even the itinerary showing up on Sabre software. But, well, we can see what goes on there at this time. No future plans with regards to any of the things that we just mentioned, at least none that we are aware of at this time. Let's take a break here on AM Prime. When we return, we'll wrap things up for this morning's edition of the program.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The best laptops and tablets are at dbesttoys.com. Get a Gateway 14.1-inch Ultra Slim notebook or an HP 14-inch laptop at the best prices in TNT. Get the Fire 7 tablet for $474. You can also shop the latest Amazon Fire Sticks. Call now at 32-DBEST to order or visit us in-store at Forces Flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Free delivery available throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Cash or links on delivery.
As Kevin Hart would say, damn! Why we have so much minors out on the streets? There's an after-school program happening there. Side women, don't give up. You know, you can become queen one day. Those companies who are currently looking for their money that they deposited in the Silicon Valley Bank, it's not there. ChatGPT is basically the start of Terminator. Our relationship with the colonial powers is like a relationship with a little bit of abuse that people like to stay in. And we remember how that was. Put in $100 and later tonight, you'll get back $3,000. I promise you. I promise you not. Did you rent an accent while you were across there?
When you're in the proximity of Donald Trump, somehow you adopt his aura.
First of all, I thought the $200 would be more than enough. It's $200.
As a goat farmer, I had 3 goats. Yeah, 3 goats and 1 cow. You know the name?
No, I don't.
Right, Messi, LeBron, and Cristiano Ronaldo. And the cow named Haaland.
I love Trinidad and Tobago enough.
Did you tell your hubby about it, first of all?
I did.
When you were telling him, did you think that he was going to think differently of you or less of you?
I thought exactly that.
In case you've missed it, it's an encore of Nicole Larson Live. Relive some of the riveting experiences of everyday people who candidly shared with me their stories, life challenges, stories of hope, and eventual victories.
Because he is not like man, because he is the God. It is a promise that we can hold on to.
The report came back that she had two properly...
Eric, behave yourself, no man.
Two properly working kidneys.
An encore of Nicole Lawson Live, living in victory every day. Every Sunday at 8 p.m. and Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. on WESN.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
So we have enough time to share with you one more regional update before I bid you farewell, and we'll move across to Barbados. A call has been made for a new fisheries policy. It comes from the Minister of Environment and National Beautification, Adrian Ford. This is interesting, actually. I didn't realize Barbados has a Ministry of National Beautification. I wonder if that's what we call CPAP in Trinidad. Anyway, let's take a look at this regional update from Barbados.
The Environment Minister told the gathering there must be a policy that seeks to engage young people at every sphere of development. He said the moral test of any government is how it treats its people, and opportunities in the blue environment are limitless.
In terms of training and the ability to train our young people in our blue environment in areas that were never thought about 60, 70 years ago. The areas I'm talking about is oceanography. To be able to speak to the build out of the ocean in terms of the waves, the development of the sphere as it relates to the science involved in it, so we can prepare ourselves to the vagaries of climate change.
The minister wants young people to buy into the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2030 and called on them to grab hold of the available opportunities.
The blue environment and the opportunities in the blue environment are limitless. There is unbridled opportunities in the blue environment. And I am encouraging young persons who are listening to me today to take hold of those opportunities. We are going to provide them in terms of having that policy framework that will assist you. We are going to ensure that there are those scholarships. As we said, through the Ministry of Education, we are going to ensure as a government that we have scholarships in this country that will seek to build out Barbados in a sustainable development way.
Chief Fisheries Officer Dr. Shelley Cox said the mandate of the Fisheries Division is to sustain and develop the fisheries resources of Barbados, and 2024 will be an important year.
This is part of our first stage, and of course next year we would like to go bigger and better. Next year, again, is really important for us. April 1st next year, 2024, will be our 80th anniversary. And we would want a series of events leading up to our 80th anniversary next year. So we will be having lots of engaging events like this over the next few months.
The Open Day is the first for the division and is the start of a number of new initiatives which will be unveiled in the weeks and months ahead. Trevor Thorpe, CBC News.
Well, that concludes this morning edition of AM Prime. Thank you very much to my guest for joining me. Wish you guys all the very best in your day ahead. Maybe a productive one, maybe a good one, hopefully a safe one. Who knows? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a West Indian cricket fan like I am, good luck today. Anyway, I'll see you again tomorrow morning from 6 o'clock here on WESN Content Capital for AM Prime. I'm Keaton Shaw. Bye-bye.
WESN.
I'm Andre L. Batiste, and you're watching WESN, the content capital. Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andy.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the right and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit?
Yes.
What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole, is for all of us in public.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, heart disease claims a life every 34 seconds.
Our relative sitting down across the table is experiencing a heart attack as we speak.
It is important to seek medical attention urgently because prompt treatment of a heart attack could prevent extensive damage and death. Therefore, one should try to get to a hospital as soon as possible, preferably by ambulance.
What's Up, Doc? Every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers? Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the Content Capital.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
We are WESN, the premier platform for Caribbean content.
WESN, covering West, East, South, and North. WESN, We Entertainment, Sports, and News. WESN, available on Greendot 7, Amplia 118, Airlink 17, Bmobile 107, Digicel 21, ICNTT 105, and Flow 110. Connect with us at WESNCC or stream online at www.wesncc.com. WESN, your premier platform for Caribbean content.
Security, a number of these issues they sort of see eye to eye. Also in terms of working together when it comes to dealing with challenges in the broader Indo-Pacific, for example, in the Pacific Islands, etc. I think India and France have really built a deep level of trust. I think the only sort of stumbling block so far has been India's position on Ukraine, but here too, I think France has more leverage than any other partner in Europe to talk to India and to work with India and also help India as it tries to decouple from Russia, particularly in the military sphere. So both at the broader strategic level, but also in the nitty-gritty of the Indo-Pacific. Of course, let's not forget that India is a very important market for French companies. And there's been a lot of cooperation, India and France working together in third countries, in South Asia and in Africa, which is also an interesting way of, countering Chinese influence perhaps in the region through infrastructure projects, development projects. So in a way, these two countries share a lot of goals, both long-term strategic as well as in individual policy areas.
Garima Mohan, there's so much to say about this issue, but unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. Thank you very much for joining us here on France 24.
Thank you for having me.
We'll turn to the war in Ukraine now. Sirens rang out in the capital early Thursday as the Kremlin targeted Kyiv with a barrage of Iranian-made Shahed drones. The attack injured 2 people, killed 1, and also destroyed several homes. The Ukrainian Air Force says that it shot down, nonetheless, all 20 of the drones and also intercepted 2 Russian cruise missiles. For the latest on this, then, we're going to cross now to our Ukraine correspondent, Gulliver Cragg, in the capital. Hi there, Gulliver. So what more can you tell us, then, about what happened in Kyiv last night?
I'm sorry, the phone's cut off. I can't hear you.
Gulliver, if you can hear me now, what else can you tell us about what happened in Kyiv last night? Unfortunately, it sounds like we still don't have a connection with Gulliver Cragg in Kyiv. We will, of course, try and bring him back later on in the program. Moving on now, just 2 months ago, Thailand's opposition was celebrating a shock victory in general elections. Thai voters had overwhelmingly supported the country's 2 progressive parties, rejecting nearly a decade of military rule. That optimism has perhaps all but disappeared now, though, as frontrunner Peter Limjaroenrat failed in his initial bid to become prime minister after a parliamentary vote on Thursday. For more on that, we're going to try and cross to our correspondent in Bangkok. We don't have him yet. Sorry about that. We'll move on again. We'll try and bring him back as well when we can. Changing gears then for now, Tokyo is preparing to release wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the sea, sparking the ire of Beijing. China's fish markets have only just started to recover from the repeated COVID-19 lockdown. So Chinese producers, similar to their Japanese counterparts, are worried that reputational damage could reverse that recovery. Well, concluding that there is no threat either to the environment or to health, 12th, the International Atomic Energy Agency officially approved Tokyo's plan earlier this month. Our Beijing correspondent Yena Li then went to find out how the Chinese fishing community is reacting to the news.
When you speak with workers at the seafood market behind me, it seems like no one imports Japanese products, or very little of it. The workers at the rare stalls with Japanese products on display refused to speak to us. The dozens of people who did, though, weren't catered towards Japanese restaurants per se, and almost all of them were against Tokyo's plans.
I am strongly against it. Strongly against it. Releasing the water will surely affect our planet. It could affect our descendants. And of course we are worried about the seafood industry.
The Japanese lack a conscience. The nuclear sewage pollutes all of the surrounding countries. This especially impacts people like us who sell sea products, and also everyone who enjoys eating seafood.
Off camera, people had more nuanced views, though, where some people pointed out that Japan has a history of high hygiene standards. Others said that if a client wanted to buy a Japanese fish, that he would find a way to provide him with it. Despite existing import restrictions, China was Japan's biggest seafood buyer last year. And overall, though, the businesses here remain concerned about the direct and the indirect impact on their industries. For example, the reputational damage on all seafood products, regardless of their provenance.
We're going to try and turn back to Thailand now. As a reminder, just 2 months ago, Thailand's opposition had been celebrating that shock victory in the general elections when Thai voters overwhelmingly supported the progressive parties and rejected military rule. That optimism, though, is maybe disappearing now because frontrunner Pita Limjaroenrat failed in his bid to become prime minister after a parliamentary vote. So we'll try and cross now to France 24's correspondent in Bangkok, Matt Hunt. Matt, if you can hear me, can you tell us more about the results of this vote Thursday?
Yeah, certainly. So the result of the vote today was exactly as you described. The bid to become prime minister on the first round for Pita Limjaroenrat, who was the leader of Move Forward Party, completely collapsed today. He needed to gain 376 votes to win. However, he only achieved 324. 182 votes were made against him, and 199 were abstentions. And it's notable that 13 of the votes from military senators were actually for Pita Limjaroenrat, but the rest account for the abstention. So this is seen largely as another obstruction by the military, which was the organization that appointed the senator. So this was only the first bid, and Pita was the only candidate that was put forward for this vote. So at this point, I would say that it's no surprise, but people are no less angry about the outcome of this result, because this is not really reflective of the popular vote that happened in May, in which we saw the Move Forward Party win greatly.
So Pita, this came in just minutes ago, Matt. Pita has said that he accepts the results of the vote, but he will not be giving up on his bid to become prime minister. So what comes next?
That's absolutely right. So there is already a second vote set to happen on the 19th, which is next week. And at that point, his party can put him forward as a candidate to become the prime minister again. However, it is possible that other parties could put forward prime ministerial candidates at that point. And so a lot of people believe that this will be the time for Pheu Thai, the second place, also opposition party, to put forward their prime minister candidate and potentially form the next government. So it's hard to tell exactly what happens, but that is definitely on the table.
Matt Hunt in Bangkok, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, there is one story dominating the front pages in the British press this Thursday. That is the revelation of the identity of a BBC presenter accused in a tabloid article of paying a 17-year-old for sexually explicit photos. Alison Sargent from our press review team has more on who it is and what the papers have to say about it.
Hugh Edwards, a very well-known face in Britain. He presents the 10 p.m. news on the BBC and also led coverage of the death of the Queen. As we see here on the front page of The Times, his wife is the one who made this revelation. He is the unnamed presenter that tabloid newspaper The Sun alleged had paid a 17-year-old for explicit images. Now, we can take a look at the Daily Mail. As we read on the front page here, his wife's statement came just minutes after the police announced that they actually found no evidence to support the allegations and concluded that no crime had been committed. Now, Hugh Edwards' wife, as we read here, also said that he has serious mental health issues and has been hospitalized after this incident. She has appealed for privacy for their family. And finally, The Guardian has some analysis about this whole debacle. They write that The Sun, a tabloid they note is owned by Rupert Murdoch, is facing serious questions now over its reporting and ethical standards. And it's worth noting it's not the first time. Even before the police had cleared Edwards of illegal behavior, the young person that he allegedly asked for these photos, who is now 20, had issued a statement saying that the allegations were rubbish. And